Okay, so if you want to do this question using the Wilbur method, it just plays. It's so elegant. No, I'm just joking. So you're saying like, okay, we already know that people that have 3 or more risk factors, 75 out of 100 of them are going to have the disease. Does that make sense? And so I say, okay, 75 are going to have the disease.
Where did you get that 75 from, Wilbur?
From the...
or maybe somebody else can tell us why is he saying
why 75?
Okay.
Using the prevalence.
We weren't so sure about that, and that's sort of a very important point that we'll probably need to know.
Sure. And so you're saying, like, you know, if 100 people walked into my room and they all had 3 or more points on that scale, then the prevalence of them having DVT would be 75%. Does that make sense? Okay, so of the people that pass the first test, meaning have more than 3 risk factors or whatever, 75 are going to have the disease and 25 aren't. Okay? So then I ask myself, okay, I always go back to here when I'm trying to figure this. What does sensitivity mean? Well, what was the sensitivity, like 98%? Then that means that the true positives would be 98%, and then the false negatives would be 2%. Does that make sense? And I'm not looking at these numbers for the moment. I'm just saying, if the sensitivity is 98%, then I take my big box with the circle, 98 over these added together, 100, 98% sensitivity. Does that make sense? Okay. Next, I say, well, what's the specificity? Well, it's 60. Okay, so that means that 60% is here, and then that means that the remainder of 100%, 40% must be here. Does that make sense? Or again, going back to the Wilbur method, you could say, well, I know that specificity is the circled box over the other 2 boxes added together. And the best way to get 60% is to put this in. You understand that? Are we good there? But now you're saying, well, okay, but now we have another thing to work in. And what we have to work in now is the fact that out of 100 people that walk into your office, 75 are going to be in this column, and 25 are going to be in this column. Does that make sense? And so I hate these numbers because they're like hard to multiply and crap. And so I'm just going to be like, I mean, this is just a ratio, right? So I make it numbers I like. So I say, instead of 75, I'm going to say 300, and instead of 25, I'm going to put 100. Does that make sense? And the ratio, this is still 75%, and this is still 25%. Does that make sense? And then I apply these numbers to my percentages here. Okay, 98% of 300 is 294. And am I getting confusing?
Yeah.
Okay, and then 2% of 300 is 6. Does that make sense? Yes, no? Are we okay? And then specificity, I say, okay, well, 60% of 100 is 60. And 40% of 100 is 40, okay? Now this gives me a picture of the kind of people who walk into my door who have that test, okay? I mean, there's going to be this many positives, whatever, this many true positives, this many false positives, this many false negatives, and this many true negatives. If, 400 people walk into my door. Does that make sense? Okay, and so then I say, well, what's the question asking now? It's asking, if I do that test and I get a positive value, what's the likelihood that it's really positive? And I say, well, which one of the Wilbur theorems answer that question? Well, I know that true positive is going to be on the top, so am I comparing true positives over true positives plus false negatives? No. I'm saying of all the people who got a positive test, what percent of them really are positive? And that is a positive predictive value. And so I say 294 which is always on top because it has a circle around it, divided by 294 plus 40. And that gives me something like 88%. And so that's a positive predictive value of that test. That make sense?
You can pick any numbers. I mean, 300, 100 was good. I always do it with the percent 75 and 100.
Yeah.
He did it with 1,000, I think, the first time I saw you doing it.
So-
You can use anything.
So that doesn't matter, right? You just say, if a certain number of people walk in my door, given the prevalence of the disease, how many would have it and how many would not. It doesn't matter what number you say walk through your door.
I don't think so, because you should do D.
Okay, well, D is...
So C is everyone, let's show, I think everybody got that one. But that's going to be on your test. I've got B's, lots of P parts up there. So, group 9, why did you pick B?
Yep.